A former FBI agent, Mark Halperin, steps up to the witness stand, and the entire courtroom goes dead quiet. You could hear a pin drop. What he's about to say isn't just some juicy gossip, it's a bombshell that unravels a web of protection stretching all the way to the top, allegedly implicating Barack and Michelle Obama. Yeah, the couple who were a beacon of hope for so many are now tied, according to Halperin, to a scandal involving parties, pardons, and shielding none other than Diddy. Halperin laid it out plain. Diddy wasn't untouchable because of slick lawyers. He was untouchable because he was valuable to the powerful. What came next was a testimony connecting politics, religion, the music industry, and a hidden network of control that's been growing since the 90s. The room was packed, but nobody dared breathe, especially when the back doors swung open and a man in a dark suit carrying a briefcase walked in. No name, no title, just a nod from the judge. That was the signal. This wasn't just any witness. They called him Special Agent Redacted, a top-tier federal agent who'd spent decades digging into organized crime and political corruption. And now, for the first time, he was testifying under oath about Sean Diddy Combs. The agent sat down, opened his briefcase, and pulled out a black folder. He didn't glance at Diddy, who was sitting at the defense table, hands clenched, face like stone. He didn't look at the jury either. He just said, "I've been tracking Mr. Combs and his operations for over 20 years. This isn't news to us. What's new is that we're finally allowed to talk about it." The judge gave him the go-ahead, and he dove in. He said the FBI first started looking into Diddy back in the late 90s. The warning signs were everywhere: shady financial deals, private parties tied to known trafficking networks, overseas connections to sketchy shell companies. But every time they got close, bam, doors slammed shut. He brought up a specific case from 2001, an international money laundering sting involving a Bad Boy Europe affiliate. Evidence pointed straight to Diddy's financial team: offshore accounts, fake invoices, shell companies in Luxembourg and Belize. But when they tried to get warrants, they were shut down. "That's when it hit me," the agent said. "This wasn't just celebrity protection, this was interference from the feds." The courtroom started buzzing. "I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy nut," he went on, "but this wasn't local cops getting spooked. This was orders from the top, straight out of Washington. Files disappeared, witnesses got relocated, investigators were reassigned. We thought it was a fluke at first, but it kept happening." The prosecution then rolled out a timeline of stalled investigations from 1999 to 2013. Every time Diddy's name came up, whether it was trafficking, assault, or wire fraud, something stopped it. A key witness would vanish, or a federal delay would freeze everything. One juror looked shell-shocked. A woman in the gallery gasped so loud she covered her mouth. Then came the real gut punch. In 2003, the agent said, "We had reason to believe Diddy was operating as an unofficial informant, the kind that doesn't show up in public records. That kind of protection only comes from the very top, and back then, only 3 people in the government could have greenlit it." The room went ice cold. Diddy's face said he knew exactly who those people were. Special Agent Redacted leaned forward, cleared his throat, and said, "This is where things get wild. It's not just about the crimes Diddy pulled off. It's about who let him keep going." And that brings us to his ties with political heavyweights, specifically Barack and Michelle Obama. You could feel the air get sucked out of the room. Even the judge's eyes narrowed. The agent flipped open his black folder and held up photos for the jury. The first was a grainy shot from 2005, Diddy standing next to then-Senator Barack Obama and Michelle Obama at a Chicago fundraiser. The next was from 2007, a secretive, off-the-record event in DC hosted by a powerful lobbying group with deep Democratic National Committee ties. Diddy was there under an alias, but the photo didn't lie. He was standing close to Michelle Obama, who was noted as a key figure in mobilizing cultural influencers for the event. He wasn't alone. These weren't just photo ops, the agent said. These were closed-door meetings. We believe Diddy was trading favors, leaking info on others in exchange for protection, working with campaign operatives tied to both Barack and Michelle Obama's rising political network. The defense leaped up, shouting "Objection" before he could finish, but the prosecution calmly handed over evidence: travel logs, email metadata, even a redacted memo mentioning a cultural liaison meeting involving BO and MO and high-value entertainment assets. "Here's the deal," the agent said, his voice steady. "In 2009, right after Obama took office, our team requested a wiretap on Diddy to catch communications with known drug traffickers laundering money through Bad Boy affiliated companies. The request was shot down. The courtroom stirred. By who? The prosecutor asked. The agent flipped to a call log from a White House-affiliated legal office. The name was redacted, but the timing lined up perfectly with when the wiretap got killed, and notes suggested Michelle Obama's team was briefed on cultural outreach efforts tied to Diddy's influence. The judge told the jury to ignore speculation, but the damage was done. The implication was clear as day. A man under federal watch somehow had enough pull to stop a wiretap cold. We're not saying President Obama or Michelle Obama personally shielded Diddy, the agent clarified, but their administration built a pipeline, a relationship that gave Diddy immunity for years. Reporters were scribbling like mad. Even the stenographer paused for a second. This wasn't about Diddy being lucky. It was calculated, orchestrated, enabled by power nobody saw coming. The jury was all ears now, pens forgotten. But what came next turned the room from curious to terrified. The agent held up a crystal clear photo from a private event in Martha's Vineyard, 2014. There stood Diddy, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, and Reverend Al Sharpton, not posing for cameras, not at a public event, but at a dimly lit gathering on a tech billionaire's estate with ties to entertainment and defense contractors. They called it a charity dinner, the agent said, but the guest list, obtained legally, included names tied to sealed investigations, former CIA assets, sanctioned arms dealers, and TreeStar Entertainment reps. The judge banged the gavel as whispers broke out. Diddy wasn't just a guest, the agent continued. He was a middleman, funneling info from New York streets to the halls of power. In return, his crimes were swept under the rug, with Michelle Obama's cultural initiatives allegedly providing a veneer of legitimacy. A juror dropped their pen. Then came a story that made even the judge's eyes narrow. In 2012, a Miami trafficking sting caught a Diddy associate red-handed. Girls, drugs, offshore transfers. It was a slam dunk case. But 48 hours later, the file was sealed, agents reassigned, the suspect walked. How? The prosecutor asked. A call from a Capitol Hill extension, the agent said. That's all we know. One call and it all vanished. He showed memos from frustrated agents, warning of interference. One line stood out. Don't ask why this got buried. Be glad you're not in the room. Then came the darkest part. In 2015, the agent said they tracked Diddy's movements. Haiti, Colombia, private Caribbean islands. At first, they thought it was just vacations, but intel from foreign partners painted a different picture. Meetings with cartel-linked financiers, yacht parties with underage girls flown in from Brazil and Eastern Europe. Some told they were auditioning for American Idol. The jury looked sick. The agent shut his folder. All this time, he played the part of a mogul, a philanthropist, a visionary. But behind it all, he was running an empire of fear, blackmail, and bought immunity. The judge called a recess. People left the room in a daze, stunned silent. For the first time, Diddy looked like a man who knew the walls were closing in. When court resumed, the mood was heavy. It wasn't just about a music mogul anymore. It was about the myth of justice, of fairness. Special Agent Redacted took the stand again, and what he said next made everyone stiffen. We believe a stash of surveillance tapes from Diddy's properties existed, going back to 2003. We know this because some briefly passed through federal hands. He clicked a remote showing a screenshot from a Diddy-owned LA home, a surveillance room with 30 monitors covering bedrooms, hallways, pools, studios. Many cameras were hidden, recording people who had no clue. The crowd murmured. "It gets worse," he said. In 2016, we got a warrant to seize 3 hard drives with this footage, but when agents arrived, a fire had broken out in the server room. Arson confirmed. The timing, less than 20 minutes after we got clearance, points to an inside leak. One surviving drive, found in a Puerto Rico safe deposit box, showed Diddy with celebrities, business people, and politicians in vulnerable states. Some drunk, some coerced. Were Barack or Michelle Obama in those tapes? The prosecutor asked point blank. No, the agent said, but several of their close friends, donors, and allies were. Diddy name-dropped them like buddies, even referencing Michelle Obama's cultural programs as a cover for some events. He kept the tapes as leverage. The room went quiet again. He didn't just record for kicks, the agent said. Those tapes were his insurance, his currency. That night, news networks went wild, but in private, crisis teams in DC and LA were scrambling, asking one question: how much did Diddy really know? The next morning, court security was beefed up. Federal marshals lined the walls. Special Agent Redacted came back with a sealed envelope. He asked the judge to open it privately. A classified CIA memo from 2012 declassified for this trial titled Entertainment Assets High-Risk Targets. The agent summarized, since the mid-2000s, Diddy was flagged as a high-value influencer with potential for domestic manipulation. His ties to arms traffickers, offshore bankers, and intelligence-adjacent figures in Eastern Europe and West Africa raised red flags. The CIA didn't recruit him, but his parties, his influence, gave them a treasure trove of behavioral data. In return, he got plausible deniability, free to operate with barely any legal heat, often under the guise of cultural initiatives tied to figures like Michelle Obama. The prosecutor asked, "Are you saying the CIA let him do this?" The agent replied, "They found his operations useful. They didn't greenlight his crimes, but they looked the other way." Then he dropped another bomb, holding up a notarized ledger, wire transfers from Diddy's shell companies, including some tied to Britney Spears' conservatorship structure, going to political consultants, lobbyists, even someone linked to a Caribbean trafficking case that vanished from the DOJ's docket in 2015. Diddy wasn't just a bad guy, he was part of a machine. Blackmail, influence peddling, covert info warfare. And then, the final blow, we believe one of Diddy's offshore accounts bought classified info from a former NSA contractor now deceased. The courtroom lost it. The judge called for order, but even Diddy's lawyers looked lost. The agent started his next testimony with a line that hit like a freight train. Diddy had the president's and first lady's numbers. Gasps filled the room. In 2014, after a music industry scandal involving underage girls and foreign guests, agents tried to detain Diddy when his jet landed in Miami. A customs alert was live for 37 minutes before it was mysteriously canceled. Why? The prosecutor asked. A 41-second call from the Obama administration's White House counsel switchboard, the agent said. The case was dropped. Diddy walked free, smiling as he hopped into a black SUV. Within 48 hours, he donated $500,000 to a PAC tied to Obama's re-election, with records suggesting Michelle Obama's team was aware of the donation's timing. The timing was brutal. "I'm not accusing the former president or first lady," the agent said, but Diddy had access nobody else would get. He used it to dodge crime and silence victims. The room felt heavy. This wasn't just about Diddy, it was about a system, a pipeline of power touching the highest levels of America. The question lingered, who else was in on it? By the 7th day, reporters were calling it the Blacklist Trial. Agent Redacted brought a document so explosive it came in a fireproof briefcase. Project Ghost Room, a 94-page FBI dossier found in a 2022 Newark raid. Hidden in a vault under a fake business, agents found hard drives, Polaroids, and a folder labeled BL Priority Protected Archive. Inside were handwritten notes, flight manifests, edited surveillance photos, and transcribed conversations from hidden mics in clubs Diddy frequented from 2004 to 2019. The names? Big shots from Interscope, Rock Nation, Live Nation, even 2 former White House aides. Black and white snapshots showed people in compromising spots, labeled with timestamps, initials, and words like leverage and hush. This wasn't for fun, the agent said. It was blackmail. When an artist wouldn't sign or a favor was needed, Diddy hinted at tapes, and people backed down. He cited a 2017 case. A pop star refused a Diddy event, then tabloids leaked a breakdown. She soon signed with a Diddy-affiliated label, but one entry stopped everyone cold. BO plus MO plus RS, all handled. Payoff confirmed. Donation received. Many believed BO was Barack Obama, MO Michelle Obama, RS a studio executive. No direct tapes of the Obamas, but the hint was clear. Donations, favors, a cozy deal. These aren't just claims, the agent said. This is a pattern. A shadow empire built one tape, one favor at a time. On day 8, the mood turned grim. Agent Redacted brought a manila folder labeled Confidential Witness Files Declined. These were statements from 26 people who spoke up early but wouldn't testify in court, scared off by threats, NDAs, or fear. He read excerpts. A choreographer from 2005 to 2012 said she was drugged at an after-party, woke up bruised, and was dropped by her agency when she tried to report it. A 19-year-old male model, flown to Miami for a fashion shoot, walked into what felt like a scene from Eyes Wide Shut. Cameras everywhere, no phones allowed. The worst came from CW11, a 17-year-old who thought Diddy was offering mentorship. He told me if I talked, my family would pay, they said. The room went silent. The agent held up a list of confirmed victims, names redacted but tied to Diddy's events. "These aren't famous people," he said. "They're real, and their fear let this go on too long." The jury was in tears. On the final day, security doubled. The agent revealed the last piece, a 2015 phone call transcript between Diddy and a DC lobbying firm figure, verified by voice software. "You said keep it off the radar," Diddy's voice allegedly said. "I did my part, brought the dollars, the artists, flipped 5 precincts blue last cycle. If I go down, some of y'all are coming with me." The agent looked up. He's not just talking parties. He's talking campaign money, voter influence, maybe election tampering through celebrity pull, with ties to initiatives championed by Michelle Obama. The room exploded. A juror whispered, "Jesus Christ!" The agent wrapped up, Diddy wasn't just buying silence, he was buying relevance. And the currency was your vote. The judge called a recess. What started as a celebrity scandal had become the ugliest chapter in modern political history, exposing a rot that ran deeper than anyone imagined. The question now, how many more names are in that blacklist files?